Thank you, Chamberlain. I have with me Osita Okechukwu, who is the Director General Voice of Nigeria. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily. Well, we have been talking about this change begins with me mantra for quite a while. And I'm just wondering, what's your take on it? Do you think that a lot of people say the timing is inappropriate, this is not the time to be introducing it, and some other people say, well, it's not the time. I mean, aside the fact that it's not the time, they also talk about the government is being hypocritical about this. What do you say to those people?
One will say that, for instance, that throughout history, facts, not feelings, not assumptions, that have built societies, and that we have communal values. The core values of the Hausa we know, the Igbo we know, the Yoruba we know, had always been honesty, transparency, accountability, diligence in dealing with human affairs. That would green a country where the child, I remember one time I came back with one funny haircut. And a neighbor said, "You can't go to your house with this haircut." I said, "You are not my father. How can you talk about the haircut I go with?" Luckily for him, immediately my father saw me. My father said, "How can you do this? Who is the barber that did this to you?" And our neighbor was very happy. Then the average child is taken as the community child. You are not only taught by your parents, and if you come home, you started a job, suddenly you come home with a big vehicle, your father will say, "Where did you get the vehicle from? How much did you earn? Just work for some few years, and you are riding this kind of vehicle." That's no more the ethos we have today. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about timings. Nobody had contested that we've deviated. And we do not forget as well that this is like second war against indiscipline. The author of that war against indiscipline, after 30 years, is back to power. And he's saying, "I want to be a model. Please try and be a model as well." Because if it's only President Muhammad Buhari that is transparent, we're going nowhere. If it's only President Muhammad Buhari that is honest, we're going nowhere.
For those who talk about timing, what they say is that this message should have come May 29, 2015, so that people will understand that this is exactly the type of change that the APC was talking about. Not how many years down the line, a year plus down the line, and then we realize that, oh, Nigerians actually need to change as well.
No. What a lot of people also do not do in the country, we said that to participate in democracy, you have to be rigorous in your assessment. The first chapter of the manifesto of the APC is war against corruption and national reorientation. That's what we have there at the INEC office. A small pamphlet, but a lot of people did not care to go through it. We said we could not go anywhere. We've seen when a barrel of oil, the crude oil, was sold at 145 per barrel. And because of the attitude, because of the values that were truncated, we could not. As at the date, or within the month, we awarded Lagos-Kano rail line, the old gauge, about 33 kilometers per hour, for 8.3 billion to the Chinese. Around the same time, the Chinese awarded 4,000 kilometers from Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, to Beijing, capital of China, at $4.2 billion. Rolling stock and the rest from Canada and Germany. The same bet, speed rail, wider, that does about 120 per hour. You are awarding at 8.3. Kaduna, Abuja, that is being celebrated, 11 point something billion dollars, 186 kilometers. So we're saying, no matter how much you have, please, for us to get out of the hunger, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, the governors, they understand the hunger in the land. Nobody is saying there's none. But who's saying, why are we where we are? Decayed infrastructure, both physical, roads, electricity, and social, education, health, decayed, with all the money that came in our kitty. That's the question. That no matter whatever, we know we're going to improve. But before we improve, ladies and gentlemen, can we reflect? Can we do an introspection? There's a local balance where I come from that says if you want to know where the rain that started beating you will stop, you must do an introspection. That introspection will let you know where you're coming from and where you're going. If we continue, we'll gross and unbridled corruption, we'll still be in trouble. Because in the Nigerian population, we're among the 10 most populous countries of the world. And only 3 of us have the advantage of having about 60% youth in our cadre. If you do that, it's an advantage if you change your attitude and start knowing how to be prudent in managing of your little funds or big funds. But if you don't change, you run into crisis.
Let's go to Lagos now and take some questions from there.
You know, many will always ask that, given the kinds of reaction that this has generated, we'll start asking you, was there some sort of copy testing? Did they discuss this amongst maybe leaders as yourself within the party to actually see that, yeah, this message will resonate rightly with the people? Because so many people wonder, why are you coming up with this policy now when we're grappling with economic recession? They say you haven't even delivered the change you promised, and then you're telling Nigerians change begins with them.
What we're saying is that a lot of people had always not looked backwards. We're saying do an introspection. Why are we where we are? Do you know that a lot of Nigerians do not care about what their councillors is doing? They don't care. They say if the councillor builds a mansion, they will start celebrating that the councillor had done so well. They're only interested at the federal level. The federal government of Nigeria receives about 52% of the whatever we call our patrimony. And the rest is shared to the states and the local council.
52% is a lot, you must admit.
It is. But the 48th must also be looked at. We're saying collectively, the totality of public servants, both civil and political appointees, both at the local level, teachers, nurses across the country, that are employed by the government of the federation, whether federal, state, or local, that they are not up to 20% of the population. Even if they change, and the 80% who are artisans, self-employed, the glamorous bank chiefs, if they do not change,
but that doesn't
the change will be ineffective.
That doesn't speak to the question of whether or not there was actually some sample testing done. I mean, he asked a question about copy testing.
No.
Did we do any sort of research to see how people were going to receive the message at this time?
My happiness is that the fact that you people are talking about it is also a test. I've listened to some of your guests, and they have divergent view. That is what it's meant for. We're in an age where lies are peddled in seconds.
Mr. Okechukwu, allow me come in here quickly, because when you talk about issues like this, it would seem as if so many Nigerians of even my age has seen it all, from President Shagari's, he calls his own ethical, yes, I remember then, ethical revolution, to Buhari's war against indiscipline. Then we also saw General Abacha come with YC, and we saw President Jonathan with the transformation agenda, and now we're back again with this.
nothing has actually worked, because if you say this is how it should go, you put it side by side with what is happening in just Tanzania, where President Magufuli, who is also known as the bulldozer, came into office almost the same time as President Buhari in 2015. But what is it that we have seen? Because the buck, as Nigerians would say, stops on the table of the president. What have we seen? What change have we seen from the presidency and his cabinet that would mean that change truly would reflect on the people?
Okay, my brother, I'm so happy with your question. Let's go to the commonalities. What is the ground rules now? Is there any Nigerian that believes that if we continue the way we are, we'll go far? I do not think so. Did you ask yourself why the person who leaves these shores to the UK now knows he had to obey the rules? This is what we're trying to return to. We're not saying that anybody is a saint, but we're saying that if Nigerians continue the way we do it, if we continue, we're creating a state of nature, which Thomas Hobbes talks about, where the voice everyone to everyone. We're now saying no. There's a collective responsibility for us to look inwards, to ask ourselves the honesty that have propelled other parts of the world. Don't we need such dosage? We're not saying that it will be done in one day, but we are trying to say that every Nigerian agreed that we need a shift.